nice to see you. Whoa, hold on, what's different? A lot has changed. We're here on the black moon now, actually. We are here on the solar eclipse on the 21st of August, talking about your month of September. So let's take it really carefully and really kindly this time. Okay, something's tearing you up, I feel, and it tears from the inside. There are likely things, people, events, and other evolutions taking place for Aries that are very strong, but they're a little bit too, how can I say, they're a little bit too cunning feeling to face. For example, if you're starting to develop an illness, or if you are starting to develop a disorder, or you are starting to compulsively eat, or you're starting to compulsively lie or do something different, it's not easy to stop if you've got a momentum. It is a very interesting time for Arian people to stop everything, to stop what you're doing and feel inside. Feel inside often this September, and if you've got the time, just hear. I have a feeling that listening and the senses and the nervous system is excelled during this time, and it can actually save you a lot of trouble later. So on occasion, having these moments to feel and truly taste what's going on inside your body and what's going on inside your mind, I feel will bring to you greatness. So having a rest, having a stop, ceasing all activity, ceasing all action, ceasing all need to protrude and pretend and do this and that is really good, because it feels to me that you can create a big vortex that you do not want to learn through later. What I mean by that is, if you are still traumatizing yourself over and over, if you're running around, if you're doing things for people, if you're doing the same things over and over again, and you might be forgetful about who you are or who you've come to be so far, stop and start feeling. Start feeling. So if you can, make it at least an hour a day. That's a lot to ask, maybe. An hour a day, every day in September, to sit and wait. And wait for something to happen. And it could be just a reality check, like you're sitting there for a long time, and you're sitting alone, or you're sitting at your mum's house, or you're sitting somewhere. And just wait. What are you waiting for? I'm not sure. But it feels to me that it'll come from the inside, it'll come from, I feel, the digestive system, it'll come from your mind, that a sudden light bulb will just go on, and then you follow that, but it has to be done in interval. I feel that the usual momentum and the usual breaking free of everything all the time for Aries this year generally doesn't quite work, as there's a lot of stops and a lot of pauses here. There's also a lot of feeling in me that perhaps for yourself, time will change and the way that you're using time will pop or combust. And this might be very, very how can I say, unfulfilling to see at first. You know, when you're seeing, like, say, I've got to wait in traffic for 2 hours. You know, I've got to wait for this letter for 2 days. This person isn't going to call me back, you know. Whoop-de-doo, I went on a date with somebody I really liked and they haven't given me anything. When you are there and you're actually feeling that there is something that is out of whack, or you're forced especially to spend time alone, don't use it unwisely. If you can, remind yourself, if there is a pause during September, you're welcome. You're very welcome to have a look, because something's waiting for you to be noticed. So each time that you have time in traffic, on the bus, on the train, in public, sitting outside, when you're bored, you don't know what's happening, and it's as if time is against you, and you may even feel there's a feeling inside your body that something is treacherous going on. This could actually, this distrust could lead to fractured things and also broken things. So be very, very fragile and careful with yourself, because it feels to me that things can go very, very fast and can become quite a danger to you. So accidents can increase, and just general well-being can be at stake if you are constantly pushing for things. Pushing has to be put away, and it is part of you and is a big part of your world to push and protrude. But if you can, please try not to hear and see if you can just savor. And the more you can wait and spend time alone, and the stiller you can become during these times, the better. And it feels to me that the world opens up to you and you. Another thing probably worthy of mentioning is a human world. A human world opens up to you, but only if you see it. So since Jupiter is going through your 7th, and also we have a lot of different things happening in the sky for you with Juno and Ceres and a few other planets, places in mind, you might miss out on the full idea if you're pushing. So people might have something for you. You might have something twinkling. You may have a little bit of a progress without which you might not do the same type of work, or without which you might not form the same type of marriages. You might have something coming through, but at this point it looks like almost a paw of a cat. Like it is very, very gentle, very, very careful, and people I feel here are listening to you more than you might think. But it is not about yelling, screaming, and pushing them around. It's basically about taking time and allowing yourself to be quantum and optimum in your faith in yourself, to be still. Because sometimes Aries might think, I'm missing out. I'm missing out if I don't run, if I don't jump, and if I don't shift things very fast. But you don't have to do that now. The slow quantum change is where you need it to be. So you might sit there for an hour, think there is nothing wrong, but I don't know what's right, and I'm a little bit stuck, or I'm a little bit strong feeling about my life. And you might have a lot of different reality checks here. And then just from that, you might get a call. And it might be something mild, but don't underestimate mild things this month. And it might be something a little bit formal, or a little bit, I don't know, not satisfying to your tastes, because sometimes Aries likes a spice. Here you are. Thank you for joining me. I feel your energy just kicked in. So if you are feeling there's like an emotional growth that's happening here, and it doesn't happen fast enough or strong enough, let go of that anxiety and just explore what it gives to you. You might find smaller portions of food. You may go to a fancy restaurant and they give you twice less, half of what you thought. You might meet somebody finally and look them in the face and think they're not that much. You might feel that the raise that they gave you at the company was only by a few cents. You might find that the next person in your life, or the new people in your life, are only just a little bit taller than the previous group. You may also see that there is nothing different, but nuance is best. Tasting the flavor difference and the nuance. How they say, the devil's in the detail. I don't like that saying, but what I'm saying is the pleasure of life, or that focus of you, is in the detail and the difference, a slight difference. You might not think it's important that somebody called you, but inside that is something else. It's like Alice in Wonderland. You open the door and you go into the secret garden, and you might not know what you find until it's like too late. So what can happen sometimes is, for example, you might get invited somewhere, and you can perhaps be a little bit like me and think, because I got first house moon, so it's Aries moon, you may feel, not exactly, but it's similar. You might feel, oh, that's not a big deal. This person just called me because they're bored, or this doesn't have to be anything. But sometimes the slightest minute detail can bring to you the world. So you might meet somebody and you think that person just wants to be a friend, that person's afraid of me, that person can't commit, this person doesn't care. Be careful of judging things too fast and taking things too far as well. That's the thing, that's the main focus here for Aries in September. You can sometimes take things too far. So for example, you meet somebody, you make up your mind in the first few seconds because you're not somebody to waste your time. And you might commit to the story from your point of view instead of what's actually happening. And sometimes this creates cliche and limited experiences. For example, you might meet somebody on Tinder. This is just an example. Or you might be interviewing somebody for a job if you are the job giver. And you see the person and you just think very little of it. You think of, this person. I reckon this would only last a day. So be careful of fast judgment and fast calls, because here things blossom in their own way. Don't forget, we're just having a black moon now, so I'm recording this during a solar eclipse actually. We are at the beginning of a brand new blueprinting energy. So where I am here in Munich, it's becoming really, really, really soft spoken. I feel what I am inside. I'm not pushing so much weight. I'm not pushing so many energies here because I'm understanding that the significance is in the detail. So I feel for you too, you might not get the best out of September if you don't notice things, if you don't have the sensitivity to note things, if you don't have the sensitivity to notice the detail. So if you can, please take the time. After this momentum that is created from the black moon, you might actually find there's a lot of things that you missed out on as a child. And you might actually suddenly understand there's a lot of things that you never really understood as an adult, because sensitivity and the grasping or savoring of difference hasn't really been taught. We got Taurus in a really nice, interesting formation at the moment. And we might actually want you to, people, you know, spirits, might, sorry, just the things I work with. So we might want you to see or guide you to see if you can evolve your senses and get extra tangibility, or this extra level of awareness and perception in the simple things in life, because what I feel that gives you later is incredible results. This delicacy, like this delicate feeling, this delicate way with words, this delicate way with flavor, this delicate way with detail, right now feeds you forever. And it's not just a small statement. Because we are starting, Virgo, the cycle on a black moon, it feels to me that the smallest, kindest, and gentlest ways for an Arian at the moment, and it doesn't matter how well or badly it went in the past, at the moment will create for you a cycle that is worthy of its cause. You know, it'll be very worthy. So have a look at that. And it feels to me that also this is an interesting time to get yourself starting things on a completely different frontier, and also the completely different energy scheme. So for instance, you might find, this is going to sound strange, a piece of paper and a pen, and you don't know why you found them, but same as me, you might be awakening to a feeling that everything is guided during September. Everything is kind of put in front of you as a little slip, like as a little note, as a little kind of like hint from life, as a little cat paw reminder. And you may start doodling, and 2 or 3 weeks later you create a collage that saves your life, or you perhaps could have a premonition that's always been sitting there and suddenly it's on the surface, or you might actually find yourself fighting no longer for those things, and that fighter spirit returns. It returns, and that big frontier, or that large sweep, the swooping sweep that you have as an energy comes back, but it doesn't quite come back the same. So what I'm seeing you doing is, with these types of sensitivity building areas in the year or in your life, you have the ability to become extra quantum with how you power through reality. So instead of spending time on people at this level, you're doing it at this level. So for example, instead of holding little talks and workshops for 20 or 30 odd people, through these types of cycles, you can make it many. So for instance, you can be somebody who wrote a book, and suddenly it gets noticed and published on a larger scale, or you could be somebody who has started a YouTube channel and it gets a huge following very fast, just through your idealism and your new way forward through sensitive and kind and subtle ways. So subtle is more, because in the subtle is a new frontier. I mean, before, a door was really obvious, a door into the new. And for example, you met somebody and it was, do you like me or do you not like me? How far is it going to take me? How big is the paycheck? You know, how big is the idea? How big is the income? How big is the outcome? And before, for example, you had a very, very straightforward black and white way of connecting to change. Here we have something really, really minute happening. But what I'm seeing is that these giant doors that you identify as the future, or that you've identified as possibility, shorten and narrow, and they can bring to you nothing later if you're still keeping on walking between the same dimensions. So for example, the doors that you had before to your heart were big and you said, I'm larger than life, I want to be with you, yes or no. This time you might see that a person that you are really interested in is just scared. And it might take time, and it might take many years maybe for some people to really establish a connection with this person that you really can't help but love. But before, for example, you might have seen somebody as a potential, but if they weren't on board with you straight away, you might have walked away with little patience. But here we are developing things interdimensionally, psychically, unconsciously. And it feels to me that perhaps things will go a completely different way when you understand that perhaps it's not about the fast return or the fast stimulation. It's not about fast stimulus with people and things. Occasionally things do take time and things become their own future. So the dimension that you're working with at the moment, I feel, as I am too, is formulaic. So you can kind of tell past, present, and future what you see and what you expect. But here we got the birth of the new dimension. We got a brand new diapason of life. So sometimes even things that do not seem like they would work out straight away do. So it is an interesting portal for miracles and magic, but this is not about occult science. This is more about having the worth in something, noticing the minute details that you love about somebody, instead of, say, for example, saying, if before you said, I don't like blondes, I like brunettes, and I want somebody who has a career, or I want somebody like this or like that, and if she's not positive, it's just not going to work. I need a positive person. But here you might find somebody who is the opposite of your spectrum of connection, who is the opposite of what you're attracted to. But you might actually find that inside this is something even greater than you've ever seen before, and you might find that a new expansion is possible for you through this type of person that you don't usually trust or lust after. So love and lust are changing. I feel that emotional and sexual experience is becoming a new flavor. I feel that there is something awakening within you and me and other people that have, first house activity, or a lot of things in Aries that are like becoming really, really, really soft and trembly. It's almost like the heart is awakening to a brand new sensitivity. So things that didn't get you before and things that you saw in a bulky, bulbous way become diluted, and they become a lot more sensitized for you. So sexuality, work, pleasure, play, especially with other people, becomes a lot more minuscule maybe and miniature in some way, but at the same time it feels to me that before, for example, you looked at a man and you saw the image and you wanted to know what job he had and how much he did in a day, what he liked to do. Here you're looking at somebody, and though they may not be what you've always pictured or what you usually go for, you might see that it is just the slight change of his hair and his face. You know how his hair grows, and the shape of his earlobe is where you are. You don't have to know exactly who he is. You don't have to push him against the wall and ask him, what are you going to provide for me? Or where are you going to take me? What are we going to do together? You might actually find that there is a really minute and lucid world that's being built after this black moon that is now, as I'm saying this. And through that, I feel you will find yourself, and I feel you'll find your feet in a brand new you. How exciting for Aries! Thank you very much for seeing me. If you'd like to know more about me, if you'd like to book a reading in the next while, let me know and I'd love to see you. Thank you. Bye.